even though the 2024 season is officially over and we've entered the infamous winter hibernation period and there's essentially no F1 for the next 3 months, the sport does not disappoint. Christmas came early, lads. Sergio Perez has officially been sacked from Red Bull. Yeah, that was it.
Is this your last race with Red Bull Racing? Will you be on the grid with them in 2025?
Yes, I renewed earlier in the year.
Who thought of that?
Yeah, I'm supposed to be neutral commentator, aren't I? Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame to see such a pivotal figure of the sport get kicked out. I mean, leave the team. Move on from Formula One. We really appreciate all of the work and time Checo has put into the sport, and all his contributions to F1 will certainly not go unnoticed. Especially the McLaren Constructors Trophy. That one will certainly have a lasting impact on the McLaren car next year. It's going to be a fucking rocket ship. Cheers, Checo. But considering how invaluable and indispensable Sergio is to the world of motorsport, he will not be short of opportunities for a smooth transition into a new title. I'm sure he'll be able to find a new job somewhere. I think like a track marshal position should be open, or a track janitor role could fit him pretty well.
Hey Checo, I feel for you. It's obviously been a really difficult day. Just have you had a chance to chat to the team? Any real understanding why it couldn't be fixed between sessions?
Yeah, we have a bit of an understanding, and we are confident that together as a team we will be able to sort it out. But nothing I can do now. I gotta look forward. This morning I was just going all around. I was driving more on the grass than on track, but yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
All right, enough. I really needed to just get it all out at once. It's been building up for the past 2 years, so I just couldn't let it linger any longer. Sounds so funny. Sounds fucking weird. Now that I've gotten that out of my system, I want to spend the next 8 to 9 minutes just speaking about how we've gotten ourselves into this predicament, as this is a very, very major change to the future landscape of F1. Not just a simple mid-season Williams driver change. That's like a fart in the wind. So there are significant, I would say interesting, implications to consider from here on in how our beloved sport may change in the future. And today, I honestly want to take a very pragmatic approach, as unbiased and fair as I can, alright? So let's get straight into it. Oh, it finally fucking happened, mate. Let's fucking go! Alright, so let's just say this. Let me take a drink. Very good. That's heroin, that. Alright, so let's just say this was a long time coming. To be completely fair and unbiased as possible, I will just present the general facts here and not give my personal opinion. At least for as much as I can. First and foremost, this year in 2024, he finished 8th in the driver standings. The lowest possible position for a full-time driver at one of the top 4 teams in the sport. So considering that the RB may very well be considered one of the most dominant cars of the 2020s, to end up behind both Ferraris, both McLarens, and even both Mercedes is a very, very poor performance for Checo. That's like not debatable. Like, come on. And he was way off as well. 70 points behind Hamilton in 7th place in the standings. He's almost as close to Hamilton as he is to Fernando. And Alonso only has 70 points to his name. That's just... it's fucking horrific, if I'm honest. I'm really trying not to be judgmental here, but fucking hell, mate. That's just pathetic. Oh. It's like ordering an Uber Black, and instead of getting a nice BMW 7 Series, you're picked up by Luigi in a beat-up Polo with a broken front light, missing front bumper, and the license plate being taped to the radiator. And instead of 30 minutes, the ride takes 1.5 hours because the driver was late by 15, and during the journey you take a couple detours, and by the time you reach your hotel, you're driving, and Luigi's in the back doing off a hooker you picked up on the way. That actually sounds pretty good. Never mind, bad analogy. But the point is, it's still faster than walking. But this was not what you expected, signing him until the end of 2026 and paying him $14 million a year. I was also going to talk about who could potentially partner the Dutch Mongoose in 2025, but they just spoiled the whole thing already. So the only thing is, it's funny that they just ended up stepping over Yuki and picking a fresh kid to partner Max. I have nothing against Lawson, but he seems a bit premature to sit in the favorite car. Who knows? Maybe he'll be the next Max Verstappen and win his maiden race in the RB. Or go punch Ocon at the weigh-ins. Either one works. I'm just a bit sad that Horner completely missed the opportunity to make one strategic move and turn Red Bull into everyone's favorite team again. He could have just bought out Sainz. And that was it. I would have bought a Red Bull cap, a hoodie, a lanyard, the whole shebang. Just bring Carlos back. Please. Now, what does this mean for us? For the sport in general, well, I guess there's finally going to be some good racing on the Red Bull side. Because in 2024, the RB was just a rabid maniac crashing into anyone who dared to take a corner with him in close proximity. And, well, that was really it. None of the other teams even really considered Perez in their race strategies, I'd imagine. He'd end up fucking DNFing himself one way or another. Now, what does it mean for his replacement? One thing for sure, all of my Australian jokes have 2 targets now. That's great. But also, it is a big risk, if I'm honest. Historically, being Max's teammate is not a very good career step. Speaking strictly statistics here, one of them had the most humiliating year in their career and ended up being sacked despite their contract extension. One guy took a hiatus from the sport, only to then do 3 fucking years at Williams. And 2 guys ended up racing for a French team. Ugh. Oh, and if you count this poor sap, then he got both his seat, his wife, and his kid taken by Maxi. Fucking legend. Now, don't get me wrong. Perez was a great driver. He's got many achievements in the sport for which you have to certainly give him respect he deserves. First off, he was instrumental in sustaining a dying Force India team when it was going through absolute turmoil. In a time when the whole company was going through a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, literally running on life support, every point mattered, as it was trying to survive until it found a suiting buyer. And in 2020, Checo managed to score points in every single race he finished in, but one. So he basically single-handedly carried the team over the finish line, long enough for the Aston Martin debacle to go through. And when I say single-handedly, I really do mean it. Stroll was the other driver, and he ended up retiring the car in 30% of the fucking races. At this point, I think it was only fair that Stroll Sr. bought the company. Otherwise, at that point, I think Lance could have just been sued for vandalism. Also, when he was drafted to the Red Bull team, let's not forget how instrumental he was in securing that first championship for Max. He was a fucking legend in the way that he defended against Hamilton, literally making up the difference and likely being the decider for who would have been crowned champion that year. So I'm not here to just bash the guy for no apparent reason and just say how pathetic he was last year compared to Max, and how absolutely horrible he was this year. I still think he was a good driver, certainly good enough for F1, but he peaked in 2020, and that just should have been it. But it wasn't. The fact that he was almost able to hold out until 2025 in the sport is a fucking miracle, to be quite frank. The past 2 years were a miserable representation of his racing prowess, and there's certainly disappointment for Red Bull as a whole. And there, in my opinion, is a big question. How the fuck was he able to stay around this long? Especially considering that Red Bull was at the time, before signing him, notorious for swapping drivers for fucking looking the wrong way. Well, I think that might actually be the reason. The fact that they were changing drivers like fucking toilet paper led to fatigue in the team and overall discontinuity. Every time having to start fresh, onboarding a new guy, only to switch them out for a new tow once they got bored of the old one. And when they landed on Perez, they must have felt that this time it's actually, some baggage that is built up in the form of experience. By then, almost 10 years in the sport, by the way. And with that, leading to finally success and triumph for their number one driver, I think once they got there, they knew that as long as they kept the car to a better place, Max will seal the deal. And Perez, much like Bottas at Mercedes, became a convenient number 2 to have, while the lead driver does all the work. And until then, things went, on paper, for Red Bull perfectly. In fact, they were in the best position they could be in 2023. And who cares that Perez didn't even get half the points that Max got that season? The car was such a rocket ship, it didn't fucking matter. They still won everything there was to win. Pretty much. It's just, when the tide turns, you realize you actually don't have a number 2 driver. You just got a f***ing anchor that drags the team down into the pit of despair, losing $20 million just on constructors' earnings alone. I really don't even want to know how much they lost in potential sponsorship deals. I'll probably break my fucking keyboard in half if I do. But there must have been some other reason why Horner didn't want to replace him mid-season, or even back in 2023. There must have been. The Mexican cartel must have threatened them into just keeping the lad or something. But once he DNF'd in Abu Dhabi, I think even they said it's fucking time to sack this moron.